Hey everybody, today I want to talk a little bit about the way of Abel and the way of Cain and the famous historian Josephus. Okay, the antiquities of the Jews. Now, I've talked about this before, but we're going to dive in a little more detail. First of all, everybody knows the Bible story in Genesis 4. Abel was the keeper of the sheep. Cain was a tiller of the ground. Cain brought the fruit of the ground as an offering to the Lord. Abel brought the firstlings of his flock, the fat thereof. The Lord had respect unto Abel's offering, but not to Cain. So Cain got mad and killed Abel. We know that story. But what we do not know, what most people do not know, is the Josephus parallel account. Okay, and we're going to look at that. Here it is. Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 2, and it says, But Cain was not only very wicked in other respects, but was wholly intent upon getting, and he first contrived to plow the ground. What? Yeah, it was Cain, not John Deere, that invented the plow. Let's look over here. If we look in the secular history, we can read what the secular people say was the origin of the plow, and it only goes back to about 1 AD, Virgil. Okay, and then it comes forward and talks about the 18th, 19th century John Deere and so on. But Josephus says that it was Cain that invented the plow, and this was, 4,000 BC or so? A long time ago. Okay, let's keep going. Josephus says a couple of the same things that we find in the Bible, but then he expands a little bit more. And he says, Now Cain brought the fruits of the earth, his husbandry, but Abel brought milk and the first fruits of his flock. Now listen to this. But God was more delighted with the latter oblation when he was honored with what grew naturally of its own accord than he was with what was the invention of a covetous man and gotten by forcing the ground. So here we have two great contrasts in types of agriculture. We have animal agriculture as practiced by Abel, which apparently Abel was working with nature, and it grew naturally of its own accord. Cain was forcing the ground, which we know is true of tillage. The ground does not want to produce monocultures of corn and soybeans. The ground wants to produce grass and weeds and bushes and trees and animals to eat all those green things. That's what nature wants to do. Nature does not want to produce monocultures. So literally, what Josephus is telling us here in 70 AD is literally the truth. It really is that tillage is forcing the ground to do something that it doesn't want to do. And further, it's producing the type of food that's bad for human health. Whereas sheep and other types of animal products are actually good for human health. And scientists are finding that out, rediscovering it, I should say, more and more every day. So this is just a really enormous discovery that I've made personally, and I want to share it with you. I've written a book about it, actually included it in my book. This is one page from my book where I talk about it, and then I go into some detail and I talk about how it's my theory that God himself instituted the way of Abel in the Garden of Eden, the time of the curse, when God made coats of skin for Adam and Eve. And I'll go into more detail on this another day. But then the next page, I talk about the way of the transgressor is hard. The way of Cain requires lots of energy expenditures and so on. The way of Abel, on the other hand, is easy. And the way of Cain has resulted in lots of slavery in our world. And then I talk about famous Abelians, famous way of Abel people. There's Job, there's King David, there's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, many animal agriculture herdsmen in Scripture. And also the famous Mongols. Genghis Khan and the Mongols were animal foods people. There's a page I wrote on, but Dave, what about bread? Bread is so common in our world today. And that's a good question, and we can go into that. Not now, though. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, and we'll just zoom out on this and close. But that's my talk today. What is the way of Abel? What is the way of Cain? What does the Jewish historian Josephus have to say about that? And we've learned some remarkable things today. That Cain was the inventor of the plow, that plowing and tilling is forcing nature, whereas raising animals like sheep is working with nature and what grows naturally. Okay, have a great day.